Welcome to Melrose Unitarian Universalist Church. Our service today is called Advent Anxiety. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm the Reverend Dr. Suzanne Trilligator, and I'm delighted to see everyone here today. And I was even more delighted to see so many people here yesterday for our annual alternative holiday fair. We raised a bunch of money for really good causes, and it went a long way to making me feel a little bit more in the holiday spirit. Eric is going to be coming forward to tell us a little bit more about it in just a minute. Our church is a vibrant, caring community dedicated to love and service. If you're joining us for the first time, we have a greeter here to answer all your questions, and that person is John Postel, who is in the hallway right now, but he's somebody who can answer all your questions. And thanks also to today's usher, Mary Beth Griscom, who's helping us out, and to our coffee hosts, Vincent Roger and Florence Cordovano. It takes all of us to make this happen, so thank you for your help. Just a few more quick announcements. Today in coffee hour, you will have a second chance to buy items from our quilters group and also some fair trade things. Also, our Director of Lifelong Religious Education, Rhea Brown-Bright, will be hosting a special table for making Christmas ornaments. And you can make two different things. You can make ornaments to take home, and you can also make ornaments that we will keep here and put on our church Christmas tree next weekend. So that's in coffee hour today with Rhea. And next Sunday, I will be off. We'll have a guest preacher, the Reverend Jordan Nelson Long, formerly the minister in Fairhaven, Mass. She is now earning her PhD in Canada, in Newfoundland. But she will be in town, and she's one of the smartest ministers I've ever met, so I think she's going to be a good preacher, and I look forward to that. Just a few holiday events to let you know about. We've got a caroling event next Saturday afternoon, solstice service Thursday the 19th, 2 Christmas Eve services as we did last year, a 5 o'clock family service and a 7 o'clock quieter traditional service. And all information on that is in your midweek update if you need to know more. Now, I invite Eric to come forward and tell us about how the fair ended up, or whatever information he's got to share. Thanks, Eric. He is the chair of our fellowship committee. Oh, and of course, Barbara, who also co-hosted the alternate fair. Thanks. Thanks, Barbara.
So the alternative event, fair event, of course, is a great opportunity to invite our community into our halls. But most importantly, it's an opportunity to give back to a number of organizations that do good work. And so we do that both by work that we're involved in, but also groups that are either nonprofits or do a lot of very good work around social justice issues. They report to us every year, our outside vendors, that this is their favorite fair and that they love coming to it, and we love having them. I don't have any numbers for them, of course, but they say that it's the best fair that they do, so I assume those numbers are good. I do have some numbers for our own internal, and of the tables that we've done, so things like Bread of Life, White Elephant, Amaryllis, Quilters, I'm not going to read off the numbers, but they fall in the $350 to $550 a table. So all that money is going to good work being donated or going back into the programs that they each do. The kitchen did much better than that. So lots of really good events. But the main thing I wanted to come up here for is Barbara and I love this event. We love doing it, but it could not nearly be a success without all the volunteers. I initially thought of keeping track of everyone, but I would be mentioning name after name and missing someone, I'm sure. So thank you so much to the people who baked, the people who led tables yesterday, the people who helped us set up, the people who helped take things down, the people who have, in the kitchen had volunteered, baked pies on Thursday. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We couldn't do it without you, and it's so important to us, and we just wanted to express that gratitude.
Thank you, Barbara and Eric. It wouldn't happen if you didn't organize it, so thanks very much. Today's order of service is available online if you need it. Here's also a QR code if you want to hold your phone up now and get to the link. But it will be a pretty much the usual format, so maybe you don't need an order of service. And now is the time that we look at one another and turn to our right and our left and say, good morning, thank you, good to see you, welcome to worship. Hi, Bill. Well done, John Pastel. You weren't here when I introduced you earlier as our greeter today. That's the wonderful John Pastel, if you have any questions or any doubts about who that might be. And now I call us to worship this morning. Frederick Buechner was an influential American writer and theologian who died in 2022 at the age of 96. I call us to worship with his words this morning. The house lights go off and the footlights come on. Even the chattiest stop chattering as they wait in darkness for the curtain to rise. In the orchestra pit, the violin bows are poised. The conductor has raised his baton. The extraordinary thing that is about to happen is matched only by the extraordinary moment just before it happens. Advent is the name of that moment. Now we light the symbol of our faith, the flaming chalice. Here to do it for us this morning is relatively new member, Susan Danielson. Thank you, Susan. There's a better one over here, but you go ahead, try that one. I just don't want you to burn your fingers.
This year, we're experimenting with some new options for our covenant space here in worship. Today, we have a covenant from the UU Society of Amherst, Massachusetts. I invite you now to rise in body or in spirit and join me as you feel comfortable. The words will appear on the screen. Love is the spirit of this community. We dwell together in peace. We seek truth and justice with will. We honor everyone's worth and dignity. We do the work of building the beloved community in our world.
Thank you. Would you please remain standing and join in our opening hymn, which is number 226 in the gray hymnal, People Look East. The lyrics will appear here on the screen.
People look east and
Thank you. Please be seated.
Good morning. If you'd like to come forward, be a little closer. Oh, there we go. A little closer to screen now is the time, but if you are happy with where you are, please stay there. Now, before we begin with our story called Sparkles of Joy by Aditi Warden Singh, I want to give a little note on it. December is a fantastic month to think about pluralism, right? Because December is jammed packed of religious and non-religious holidays that show all the different ways people celebrate this time of year. Our story today is about some of these holidays. In this story, people are celebrating Christmas, Hanukkah, and Diwali. Those last two holidays are based on the lunar calendar. If you don't know the word lunar, this just means it's based on the moon. The lunar calendar is different from our calendar, so those holidays seem to move around in time, at least to us. And this current year, 2024, for example, Diwali wasn't even in December. It was in October. It even overlapped with Halloween. For our story today, I need you to imagine that we are in December, where all these holidays have managed to line up this year, and they're happening near each other, all right? Okay. Sound good? Okay. Raya loves planning celebrations for with her ma. She has invited her neighborhood friends for a festive playdate. Ella and Dev come with gifts. They admire the rangoli in front of the door. Warren arrives with their new neighbor, Caleb. Raya welcomes them and joined hands and says, Namaste, happy Diwali. Everyone wishes each other a happy Diwali. Have you settled into your home? Ella asks Caleb. He nods. He's a little too shy to speak. Great, she turns to Raya. Everything looks so amazing. Isn't Diwali called the Festival of Lights? Warren wonders. Dev beams. That's because homes twinkle with holiday lights and diyas as a celebration of good winning over evil. He punches the air with glee. Raya asks everyone, would you like to try on the traditional clothes and accessories Ma set aside? They all said yes and dress up, feeling very fancy. Ma brings wheat flour dough. She shows them how to make diyas by shaping small balls of it into bowls with a flat bottom. Everyone enjoys molding the dough and pinching it where they will need to add the wick. Ma takes the diyas away to bake and gives them diyas she pre-baked to design. With paint and glitter, the diyas sparkle. After crafting, everyone munches on delicious Indian snacks of giyas, pedas, chidwa, and chakli. Ella passes more sweets to Caleb. These are so yummy. All this reminds me of Christmas. We bake and decorate our own ornaments with salt dough, and my house sparkles just like this. Don't forget about the cards we make in exchange with friends and family, prompts Warren. Do you like making cards, Caleb? Caleb nods again. We do that for Diwali too. One thing I love about Christmas, though, is the silly sweaters. Last year, my dad wore a sweater with Santa dabbing on it. Dev laughs. They giggle along and dab along with Dev. Can you all show me your best dab? Oh, that is beautiful. Thank you. I love that my house shimmers with lights from Diwali to New Year, Raya says, and crosses her fingers. I wish it snows and we have a white Christmas, Dev adds. I hope my mama and tata can visit during the festive season this year. It is so much more fun celebrating with the whole family. My mom says Diwali is celebrated in South India because Lord Krishna defeated the demon king Naraksara, saving 16,000 women. Raya lifts a finger and says, my ma says Diwali is celebrated in North India because Lord Ram came home to Ayodhya after winning the war against the demon king of Lanka, Ravan. Ma says people around the world celebrate Diwali for different reasons. Some people even call it Diwali, meaning rows of lighted diyas or lamps. Interesting. Christmas is celebrated because Christ, the Son of God, was born, and it was so wonderful that he came to earth. Mass is always peaceful, Ella shares. Each morning before Christmas, I open a new window in my advent calendar. The reindeer pictures are my favorite. In the evenings, Mom and I bake different kinds of cookies for the family and to share. Ma and I make Diwali snacks together too. We love putting music on and dancing while cooking. Raya runs to play Indian songs and grabs Ella's hands. Let's dance! Ella mimics Raya. Warren joins in with his own move. Dev rolls his eyes and whispers to Caleb, "You don't have to dance if you don't want to." My mom keeps trying to get me to dance too, but I just like listening to Christmas carols when we put up our tree. Raya stops dancing to sit with Dev and Caleb. Raya says to Caleb, "Did you know different days of Diwali have different rituals?" Caleb shakes his head. Raya counts the 5 days of Diwali on her finger. 1, Dhanteras, 2, Choti Diwali, 3, Badi Diwali, 4, Naya Sal, 5, Bhai Dooj. Dev shrugs. That's okay though, that's different everywhere too. In our home, we only celebrate it for 2 days. The best part of Diwali, though, has to be the firecrackers. Caleb beams. I love the firecracker displays on July 4th. Raya Dads enters in a room with the box. That's great because it's time for firecrackers. He goes over to the safety rules. Each one of them is equally important, he says. 1 at a time, stay with adults, keep distance from friends, keep a bucket of water close. Once done, clean up. They head out to play with sparklers, jumping up and down, squealing. Raya's dad sets the fireworks off. The dazzling lights and colors are amazing. After they finish and go back inside, Warren asks Caleb, "Do you celebrate Diwali or Christmas?" Caleb looks at them all and grins. "I'm Jewish. Hanukkah is our festival of lights. We light the menorah for 8 days with special prayers and enjoy fried foods. The house sparkles in candlelight. We also play dreidel games." Raya claps her hands together. "That sounds so wonderful. We can plan more festive play dates." Ella imagines making ornaments with her friend. Warren talks about his grandma's fancy meals during Christmas. Caleb can't wait to teach his new friends how to play dreidel. Dev shares how they could also celebrate Holi when spring comes. When it's time to leave, Raya gives them goodie bags full of Diwali snacks and the diyas they made. They thank Raya and head home. The hearts glow with the joy of togetherness. They wonder who else they could invite next time. All right, with that, our story has ended, and we will head downstairs to keep thinking about pluralism and maybe solve the mystery of where all the symbols of different holidays in December went.
Every Sunday, we take time after the story for meditation, quiet, prayer, time to reconnect with our highest ideals, with one another, and with our own individual sense of the divine. Let's begin that time together by relaxing into our seats, relaxing our bodies, feeling our feet on the floor, breathing deeply. In this time of meditation, first we'll join in our centering song, and then we'll sit for a time of shared quiet. Then we will share our joys and sorrows, and I will lead us in a prayer. Our worship theme for December is pluralism, and our centering song for the month is Where Do We Come From?, which is number 1003 in the Teal hymnal. Please remain seated and join in the song as you like, letting it guide you gently into our time of quiet. Every Sunday in our service, it's our tradition here to share with one another our personal joys and sorrows, the milestones of our lives. We share with one another with a deep sense of caring and love, so that these shared joys and sorrows help us get to know one another better and help us companion one another on the journey of life. I invite anyone who has a sorrow to share now to come and speak from the microphone so everyone can hear you and see you. And I invite anyone who might be watching us on Zoom to go ahead and type a sorrow into the chat box, and I will read aloud. Mary Beth, please light another candle to symbolize all of the joys that were shared and those that remain unshared, unspoken in our hearts this morning. Let the candle be for us a reminder to feel gratitude for all the many blessings in our lives. For our prayer today, I have some words to share from the meditation teacher and psychotherapist Gunilla Norris. She writes, "It is a paradox that we encounter so much internal noise when we first try to sit in silence. It is a paradox that experiencing pain releases pain. It is a paradox that keeping still can lead us so fully into life and being. Our minds do not like paradoxes. We want things to be clear so that we can maintain our illusions of safety. Certainty breeds tremendous smugness. We each possess a deeper level of being, however, which loves paradox. It knows that summer is already growing like a seed in the depth of winter. It knows that the moment we are born, we begin to die. It knows that all of life shimmers in shades of becoming, that shadow and light are always together, the visible mingled with the invisible. When we sit in stillness, we are profoundly active. Keeping silent, we hear the roar of existence. Through our willingness to be the one we are, we become one with everything. Amen."
Our church is self-funded, supported by your generous annual pledge. You may also give to our weekly collection, which we split every month with a worthy group via our Giving Beyond Our Walls program. Remote folks can donate using the orange button at the top right corner of our homepage at melroseuu.org. For the month of December, half our collection plate will go to the Sanctuary Campus. This is a new program of the Sanctuary Boston, which is a vibrant UU community worshiping online and in person on Wednesday evenings at First Parish Cambridge and First Church Boston. This year, the Sanctuary is reaching out to create a campus ministry to connect and support UU college students across the Boston area. The campus ministry will provide regular gatherings, small group ministry, and social justice opportunities. Our anthem today is called "Love's Power is Real" and was inspired by an online sermon that I read by a UU minister named Elea Kemler.
Wow, that was great. Thank you. In 2009, the Nigerian novelist Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie made a TED Talk that was among the first to go viral. It's now been viewed over 50 million times. It begins with this story. My mother says that I started reading at the age of 2, although I think 4 is probably closer to the truth. So I was an early reader, and what I read were British and American children's books. I was also an early writer, and when I began to write at about the age of 7, stories in pencils with crayon illustrations, I wrote exactly the kinds of stories that I was reading. All my characters were white and blue-eyed, and they played in the snow, they ate apples, and they talked a lot about the weather, how lovely it was that the sun had come out. Now, this all despite the fact that I lived in Nigeria. I had never been outside Nigeria. We didn't have snow, we ate mangoes, and we never talked about the weather because there was no need to. Unquote. Her TED Talk is called The Danger of a Single Story. And in it, Adichie does a masterful job of illustrating that danger through many different stories from many different perspectives. She goes on. Years later, I thought about this danger again when I left Nigeria to go to university in the United States. I was 19. My American roommate was shocked by me. She asked me where I had learned to speak English so well, and was confused when I said that Nigeria happened to have English as its official language. She asked if she could listen to what she called my tribal music, and was consequently very disappointed when I produced my tape of Mariah Carey. She also assumed that I did not know how to use a stove. What struck me was this: she had felt sorry for me even before she saw me. My roommate had a single story of Africa, a story of catastrophe. In this single story, there was no possibility of Africans being similar to her in any way, no possibility of feelings more complex than pity, no possibility of a connection as human equals, unquote. To me, this video is the perfect explanation of why we, as Unitarian Universalists, uphold the value of pluralism. Last summer at our General Assembly, we voted it as one of our 7 new values. But of course, it will take some time for us to investigate this word, pluralism, to understand what it means, and to take it into our minds and hearts as part of our faith. That's why we are spending a month talking about it this year. Now, I've heard some of us grumble a little bit that pluralism is a strange value, too slippery, too abstract, too conceptual. But really it isn't. It's so simple. It's just our answer to, in Adichie's words, the danger of a single story. We know that when we have in our minds a single story about another people, whether consciously or not, it's likely to reduce them to a stereotype, a character, a less than human, two-dimensional thing. And it's only human to do that. It's so easy. In a world as complex as ours, our brains easily get overwhelmed, and we need to simplify things as much as we can. So we generalize and label and flatten. And we do it even without realizing it. And our culture and our media helps that along with oversimplified versions, or even more damaging, no information at all about some people and cultures. I mean, I didn't know that English is the official language of Nigeria. Did you know? In the words of Gunilla Norris in our prayer this morning, we want things to be clear so we can maintain our illusions of safety. Certainty breeds tremendous smugness. So this is why we use work at practicing pluralism. We share children's stories like the one we had this morning. We form book groups. Our anti-racism team leads trips to see August Wilson plays and eat at Nigerian restaurants. We learn from our clients at the Immigration Support Alliance or via musicians with the Opening Doors Project. We use work at practicing pluralism because we know that affirming diversity, celebrating it, learning from it, is not only good for the world, but it's really good for us too. The writer and interfaith activist Eboo Patel puts it this way: to see the other side, to defend another people, not despite your tradition, but because of it, is the heart of pluralism. And that's what we already do, well, however imperfectly. So maybe it's just the word that's new to us, pluralism. Instead of saying what we're against racism, against homophobia, against anti-trans legislation, we say what we're for. Pluralism is the idea that many ways of being, many cultures, many religions, many genders are good and real and equal and beautiful. And it's really about our dream of living in a multiracial, multicultural, equitable, and fair democracy. Now, as we know, maybe that's not the prevailing ideal in our country these days, at least not according to November's popular vote. You could say that the winning party is definitely a proponent of a single story. That party prioritizes, valorizes a single story of our country, our culture, our future. And we all know how dangerous that is for all of us. Thankfully, we have our faith tradition for inspiration, we have each other for support, and we have now in this current season of Advent for getting ready. Coincidentally, we find ourselves in Advent, which according to some of the traditions we've inherited is the season of getting ready. Now, I know that some of you might be shifting in your seats. Some of us who were raised in Christian traditions get a little bit uneasy when I suggest that we reclaim Christian ideas or traditions. We might prefer to jettison all of that like excess baggage and keep moving forward, and I get that. But I have 3 quick reasons for you why it's important for us to study our Christian heritage too. 1, it's part of that diversity. Just as we want to understand and defend other cultures, it's important that we understand our own history, our own social location, so we can place it accurately as one among many. In the world that Gunilla Norris, in her words, it's a paradox. Through our own willingness to be the one we are, we become one with everything. Reason number 2, under Christian nationalist heteropatriarchy, a thorough knowledge of Christianity can be a wicked tool. Nothing shuts them down better than being able to declare, no, that's not what Jesus said. And number 3, Christianity is our heritage too, and reclaiming pieces of it can be healing and helpful for us too. So what I'm trying to say is, the heart of my sermon is, December is diverse, delightfully so, but so is Christmas, so is Advent. We can make it so. We don't have to buy into the single story of Christmas and Advent, the single story that late-stage capitalism is trying to sell us. You've seen it in a million movies and TV shows. The single story of Christmas is one big white family, all in ugly Christmas sweaters, in one big expensive house around a tree with a ton of Christmas food and 2 tons of Christmas presents. That is how it is done, according to the single story. But we know that's not the only story. And I'm here to remind you today that there are as many ways to celebrate Christmas and Advent as there are people, millions, including not to celebrate it at all. And you can do it in the way that works for you, that expresses who you are, where you are right now in your life. A friend of mine, who is another minister, posted on Facebook this past week, "I don't think I will decorate for Christmas this year. I skip some years. It's no biggie." And other people responded to her, "We skip sometimes too. So far this year, not feeling into it." Someone else said, "We have scaled back this year. Just can't seem to find the energy." And someone else, "Christmas is so much nicer when it doesn't feel so performative and mandatory." I liked that. I sat with that for a while, and for me, it seemed to open up space for me to rethink how I feel, for me to reimagine how I do Christmas. And what I realized is that the value of pluralism includes me too, and it includes you. It includes letting yourself change your mind, adapt, evolve. Like the famous saying by Walt Whitman, "You have every right to proclaim to the world." Do I contradict myself? Very well. I contradict myself. I am large. I contain multitudes. I contain multitudes. So I realized, for this year at least, I'm done buying gifts. I told my young adult kids that this year we are having an anti-capitalist Christmas. I said you can make things or re-gift things that are already in the house. So far, there's been a very mixed reception to this idea. And we are still in the negotiating phase. But the thing I really wanted to tell them was that, like the Who's down in Whoville, we can still have all those great Christmas experiences, days in our pajamas and board games and hot chocolate and carols and baking. I just don't want to buy any more stuff. It's just not where I'm at, financially, spiritually, emotionally. I'm just done with it. To me, this year feels different from years past in some key ways. And I think it's okay for us to respond to it differently, to practice differently. It's okay to be where we are and feel what we feel. Traditionally, Advent is a time of discernment. So I'm inviting you in this season of quiet and rest to give yourself some time to discern where you are. Don't just rush into the holiday busyness like every other December. Take a moment or a day, even a week, to be where you are, to feel what you feel. If you're tired, rest. If you're grieving, rest. Take a time to adjust to the new realities, to think about your options, to discern how you want to move forward, to allow enough quiet for something new or different to rise up within you, to allow, if it should happen, a new spirit to be born within. We all know that the next 4 years are going to be difficult. It's going to be a marathon, not a sprint. We will need to rest and take turns with our work. To be effective, we will need all of our creativity. And that's going to require rest and care and kindness for ourselves and others. So now, before that begins, I invite you to resist the danger of the single story. Resist the single story of December, the single story of Christmas, of Advent, of you. Pluralism knows that there is so much more out there, so much more in here, so much more to us, so much more to the story, and so many different stories. If you can be here now in all your amazing complexity and depth and embrace that, you will be stronger later when the time comes to defend others in all their complexity and depth. My hope for you today is that you let yourself have the Advent you need so that maybe later you can have the Christmas you want. So that next year, when the time comes, you can be the ally that pluralism and humanity deserves. Amen. I invite you now to rise in body or in spirit and join in a completely optional closing hymn. It's 235 in the gray hymnal, Deck the Halls. Thank you. Please remain standing and join with me in our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish the flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Please be seated. Thank you all for worshiping with us this morning. Just a quick reminder that after a lovely postlude from our friend Tom, we have coffee hour in Parish Hall right here, and there'll be a second chance to buy goods from the quilters and the fair trade table, and a chance to make a Christmas ornament. Thanks for gathering this morning. Happy Sunday.